Yay Networks.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy!
Great girlfriends, I got my great girlfriend here. Now, don't get me wrong. Listen, anybody who comes in the studio officially becomes a great girlfriend, but I got my great, like, meet me with the toothpaste on the corner of my mouth. Great. Let's go talk about it. Girlfriend. Who was a gift to me, by the way. Shout out to Ty Beauchamp.
Shout out, Ty. You made this happen.
Ty made this happen.
Thank
Ty
you, girl.
knew.
Yes, she did.
How did she know?
I don't know. And I think it's really important to tell the story of how she thought we should have gotten together.
That is so true. That is so true. And I'm going to get into who she is because you already probably want to know who she is. But I'm just saying, Ty Beauchamp was the reason that you, my great girlfriend, who is one of my top 5 and actually top 3 in LA, and she didn't even know it, and that's my bad. I told you I had to do better because I was like, wait, how do you not know you're in my top? And then I was like, that's my fault. I haven't shown you how superior you are in my experience. I haven't, because you're supposed to know. You shouldn't have questions. You should be like, yeah, that's right. Yes, I am. Thank you.
That's true. And so we got to do
my
better
responsibility.
about that. But
it's on me.
I fully feel that.
Yeah.
Actually, I was texting with one of my line sisters today, and she sent me something about friendship. And I said to her, I want to be a better friend and a better sister in 2024. Like, that's what I want to do for my people. And she's like, but you're already such a good friend and such a good sister. And I'm like, really? Tell me more. Because sometimes I think either we don't see ourselves as being and or life.
Yeah.
Life just happens. And I think the people who are supposed to be like close to the people who are in our hearts and the people who are supposed to be closest to us, they don't sweat that.
At all.
Because you didn't say it didn't mean that I was any less excited and anticipating the next time we got to be together.
That is so true. But that's the beautiful thing about you is you are so present in what is. You don't focus on what wasn't, what could have. You're very present in what is.
Yeah.
When we sit at breakfast, that turns into lunch, possibly dinner. Because we always look up and it's like, girl, it's noon. We got stuff to do.
My husband texted me like 6 times the last time, like, you okay?
Did you just text back my name like Sybil? You know she long-winded. It just is. It's what happens. But you're very present. That's my observation about you, is that you're available to what is present.
Well, I think that that's the thing that is most important to us in that moment.
Yeah.
And so we have to deal with the present. And oftentimes that actually leads us to dealing with whatever all the things are, the building blocks were that led us to the present.
Yeah.
But if we don't start with the present, then we, aren't really healing and processing and doing all the things that we need to do today to be the better version of ourselves tomorrow.
That's so true. It's so true. You're so balmy, and I say that all the time. I'm like, girl, you like shea butter. I could just rub you on and just like, she's so decadent.
I change my Instagram handle to shea butter.
Shea butter. Shea butter LA. Hashtag shea butter.
Shea butter E.
Right, yeah. But it's true. It's like, I think every person has a texture, has a scent, has a fragrance, and you give that very balmy, very soothing and just nurturing. It's kind of like, do you sing? I don't even know that about you.
I don't.
I didn't think so, but I didn't want to throw it on you. But pretend that Jill Scott texture. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
It's a breeze.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's smooth.
Yes.
Yeah. And it leaves you smooth.
Yeah, that's it.
Girl, thank you.
Yes. You and Jill need a shea butter collection. Y'all.
I receive that. Come on, Jill.
You and Jill need shea butter.
Come
Jilly
on.
from Philly. Y'all need a shea butter collection. But that is that texture. It's that feeling. It's your own custom because you're not Jill. You're Erika. You guys have separate textures. But I just want to say that I think it's so important is the amount of presence that you give to me. Like, and I think when people do that, they become a fixture because they are available to what your needs are, what your wants are, what your experiences are, and you find yourself cultivating what is a really quality relationship that is not built on, I've known her since third grade. It's like, what I know of this person is so beautiful that I look forward to more presence with this person.
I receive that.
It's good, girl.
Thank you.
Thank you, God. Thank you, Ty.
Thank you, Ty.
Because Ty was like, have you heard? No, actually, Ty said, I have a friend I want you to meet.
No.
That's what she texted me. What she texted you?
Yes. No, you were in Hawaii, though.
Yes. She was like, y'all are there at the same time. Okay, so that was that part.
And I'm like, I'm not stopping what my family's doing, Ty, to go meet this lady. But I'll talk to her when I get back to LA.
Right. I was like, wait, so we're both in LA, but we're in Hawaii, so you want us to co-vacate in Hawaii, but not, okay. Thank you, Ty. Thank you so much.
She was doing.
She was urgent about it, though. She was like, y'all there at the same time in Hawaii. Make it happen. It's okay, so how about LA? Can we do LA?
And we did it quickly, though. We didn't waste time once we got back to LA. Both of us were quick. Breakfast? we appreciate Ty's voice in our lives and in her presence in both of our lives. I've known Ty since we were teenagers at Spelman.
Wow.
And so if she said this is a person you should meet, then I believe her spirit.
Yes.
I trust Ty's spirit.
Yes.
So
yes.
And it led me to you.
It did. I know. I'm so glad about it. I know. We didn't waste time on that either. You're right. And it's very important that you have people in your life whose spirit you trust. You said that. And that immediately resonated because I'm thinking about all the valuable connections that I've made with anyone has been because their spirit. I trusted their spirits to know that they would never lead me in a direction that was not built for me to, they would never steer me in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
Like you know what I mean? They want the best for me.
I have I'm gonna call it the Holy Spirit because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
But there's a deep knowing I have from the moment I meet someone.
Yeah.
Now it backfired on me recently. I will tell you, I had a really, really bad situation with someone who I did trust.
Okay.
But I think it was because a lot of people were telling me I should trust this person. It wasn't because I felt like I should trust this person, but people were saying you should trust this person, and I did, and it ended up being not the best situation. But I learned from it quick enough that I could pivot out. Of that relationship. And move on without too much damage having been done. But I will say, generally speaking, 9 times out of 10, when I can even stand next to someone and I can feel their spirit, it's like, I'm gonna go Bible because I am a Bible girl. When Mary met Martha and they were both pregnant and the baby's lips.
Yes.
And it's like my spirit will leap with someone else's spirit.
Yeah.
And I without fail, they'll say, oh, I felt that too. And I know that's my person. And sometimes it doesn't even require a whole lot of conversation, a whole lot of time spent together. Your spirit just knows, and then you trust that spirit.
Yeah.
Your spirit also knows the opposite too.
Yes.
And you got to trust that too.
Stomach gets in knots. You're like, why do I feel this? I don't feel good. And other people can feel. The milk is sour. The milk is sour. Other people can feel amazing about that person.
Yes.
Right.
It's not your person.
Like what you're saying. Other people could have said to you, they could have said, this is a great person for you to connect with. And then you can build whatever the design of that relationship is for you guys. May not have been trust. It could have been like,
right.
This is a coffee every quarter, or this is, what I mean? It could have been something very light, or it could have been a lesson like you're saying. But it's so important to understand that everyone's not for everyone.
No, they're not. And that's okay because I recognize I'm not everyone's flavor.
Absolutely.
And I've known that since I was a child. I am not everyone's flavor. And I'm okay if I'm not your flavor.
Yeah.
It's okay because I'm somebody else's flavor and you're somebody else's flavor. It doesn't mean that either of our flavors are wrong. That's one of the things that I tried to teach my kids as they were growing up is that we don't have to make someone wrong for us to be right.
Right.
They can just be different.
That's right.
They can just have a different perspective.
That's right.
They can come from a different background. There are all these things that are different that we oftentimes equate with wrong. But wrong is not usually the right word. It's just not right for me.
Right.
It's just not right for me. It's okay. Perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Because you will come to the people who you're supposed to be with. And for me, I've been very blessed that in my adult life, I've come in contact with multiple women who have become my sisters.
I
and
love
it
that.
is, we moved around a lot. My husband, my kids, and I, we moved around in Atlanta, and then we bounced from Atlanta to other places. And so I was always just a little concerned about whether or not I was going to make friends. And in every space, that person or those people have shown up exactly when I needed them to show up, and they've become my people. And so I have this this spattering of women across the U.S. from the different places that I've lived that are still incredibly close to me. I may not talk to them every day. I may not see them that often, but I know they are my people.
Yeah.
And they're the people who love me. And I know I still haven't met all of the people who will love me either.
Ooh, that's so
And that's
good.
the real exciting part. I haven't
really
met them all
exciting.
yet.
I think that's so important. And I think sometimes people give up on the idea that there's more in store because of poor experience or just not really feeling confident in relationships. When you decide that you are okay with you, that you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, you're not going to be everybody's favorite, but you are okay with you, and you align yourself with people who love who you are as you are, you're open to the idea that more relationships can happen that way.
Right.
When you feel insecure, you think it's you.
Or here's another piece of it too, is that you may feel insecure, but you got to show up as that insecure person.
Yeah.
And you've got to let them know that you are this insecure person.
Right.
Whatever it is you are. Like showing up authentically, I think, is the most important thing. So that people get the choice with whether or not they want to be friends with you, not with the version of you that you want them to see.
Yeah.
And so that has been, I think the way I've shown up, and the reason that I've been able to collect these people is because they can accept all of me, because I didn't try to hide that from them, which is not always how I was like growing up, because I was incredibly insecure and I wanted to hide parts of me. And you and I have talked about perfection before, and so part of my perfection was like, well, if you don't see this, then you can't judge this, and then you can't critique that and whatever. And so I was like doing all this chess with everyone I came in contact with. And very few of them got to see like the totality of who I was. And so then I walk away feeling like they're superficial friendships, but in fact, they didn't know who they were participating with.
Right. And they could only get so far anyway. Like,
so that was really on me.
Yeah.
And so
when did you realize that though? When did you come to that?
I came to that. I started coming into that realization in college. I went to Spelman, and I grew up. I went to Carver High School, so that tells you all about the neighborhood that I grew up in, because Carver High School is what it is
MLK Boulevard.
everywhere in the United States. Whatever you imagine Carver High School is, that was what it was, right?
Is it fair East Side? Not as bad.
I mean, it had been rebuilt at that time.
Okay.
So the district was trying. But anyway, so that was the context that I grew up in. And then I went to Spelman, and there were all these women who had gone to like boarding schools, and they were driving Lexuses and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't even have a car. Like, what is going on here? And my inferiority just like jumped in to high gear because I didn't feel like I really belonged in that place. I knew academically, intellectually, I belonged there, but socially, I didn't. And that's when, so I'd already learned as a young child, because I was very intellectually curious, and therefore I was academically pretty sound. I was valedictorian of my high school. I don't think you know that. I was.
Come on.
Star student in my county, the whole 9 yards. But that was, in and of itself, that was a challenge, because people who lived where I lived and came where I came from were not like me in those ways. And so there was always this, you're different in that, and in the spaces that I lived in, I was different. And then when I got into other spaces, because the district that was in, the county I was in, was still under a integration order in the 1980s. In the 1980s.
Oh my goodness.
So I was bused across town to go to school in the 80s because they were under a new integration order, because they hadn't done it with all speed per Brown v. Board of Education. Anyway, so I started being bused in third grade out of my neighborhood. But they didn't bust everybody. I only bust some of us. And
the different smart, the busable.
They bust some of us. And so then I got into those areas. And while I was intellectually probably more gifted than many of them were, I have a story one day about my third grade teacher who basically refused to put me in the gifted program, even though my score said I should be in it, because she said, well, you went to that school over there, and there's no way that these scores are correct. And so it took my mom like going up to the school and being like, well, retest her, do whatever you got to do. Like, this child is gifted.
Yeah.
And so you're going to, put her in the spaces, in the academic spaces that she belongs in, to push her. Anyway, so when you live in this dual context of I'm not quite like these people over here that I live with, but I'm also not like these people over here that I go to school with, but where do I belong?
Right.
And that was the beginning of my, let me put on this mask when I'm over here, and I'm going to put on that mask when I'm over there. Because I know how to be in both these worlds, but I can't be the same person in both these worlds. It's not safe to be the same person in both these worlds. It's not socially acceptable. The list goes on about why it wasn't okay, why I told myself it wasn't okay. But I also didn't have anyone to tell me that it was okay. Because we were kind of the first doing
There was
this.
no blueprint. Like, you had not seen it.
Hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And so then I get to Spelman, and I'm once again in this place where, okay, I fit in this way, but I don't fit in this way. Like, how do I make these people want to be around me, or be okay with me, or accept me, because I don't have what they have. I can't do what they're doing. And let me tell you, everyone who was at Spelman wasn't living that large.
Right.
But in my eyes.
It was just a new world for you.
In my eyes, they were.
Yeah.
And so I began this whole, a different way of operating with a mask, but still operating with a mask in the same way I had done when I was in middle school and high school. And it was when I met my husband. We met in college.
Amazing.
I know. It's crazy.
Hey, Maurice.
That I said to him, this is the totality of me. You need to know it all. Because if you're going to be involved with me, I don't need you knowing one part of me and not knowing the rest of me.
Wow.
So if you want me, you got to want all of it. And I laid the good, the bad, and the ugly out on the table. And this man was like 19.
Right. I'm like, that's such a big moment to have as teenagers.
Yeah, we're 19, 20, and I'm having this conversation with him. And we're still together. We've been married 22 years. It'll be 23 years this year. But that was the moment that I decided that I was just going to be authentic. And then I just kept peeling back layer after layer after layer as I continued to, get older and more mature until the moment came where I was like, I'm done. Like, I actually made a full declaration. Like, I'm not code switching no more. I'm going to wear my hair natural. I'm going to, like, all these things that I wanted to fully be. I wanted to show up as fully me. But in the spaces I was in, I didn't feel like it was appropriate for me to do that. And so that was the last vestiges of it was when I really honestly decided to stop code switching and I changed my hair, is when, like, I totally pulled it all back and said, I'm going to show up just like this.
Wow. Did you think, when you said, I'm going to show up just like this, did you think that was a good thing, a challenging thing, an uncomfortable thing? Like, what did you perceive that to mean? Was it freeing? Is it, what is it?
No, it wasn't necessarily freeing because I still I learned I taught myself how to be a perfectionist.
Right. Okay.
So just because I was showing up authentically as me didn't mean I shed the perfectionism.
So you perfectly authentically.
Part of the authentically me is I also am a person who doesn't like blame, who doesn't like criticism, and therefore I need to take all the time I need in the world to get things right before you see it so that you don't have space to critique me or to tell me that anything was wrong with me.
Isn't there something about perfectionism? Because as a perfectionist, you have a list of critiques that are the ones that you clear that qualifies you to make whatever said choice is. In order for me to wear my hair the way I want to wear it, I've taken it through 50 to 100 critiques.
Right.
I cleared all of those.
Right.
Then comes person with critique 112 that was not on your list.
That was not my bingo card.
And you realize that you cannot escape it. Like
You
that
can't.
you can never, ever, ever perfect perfectionism. You can never, ever, you can't. There is no end to that.
So the very first step of graduating from perfectionism is that you got to decide you will never be enough for them. Then step 2 is I will also never be enough for that critic inside of me.
Wow.
So step 1, step 2,
Yeah.
and then that's the freedom comes after that.
Wow. Because then at that point, you understand that there's no point in trying to do all the things that you thought were going to make your world perfect, make things perfect for you.
Yeah. Or somehow insulate you from people's opinions.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
What did Maurice say when you gave him the all of me? This is it. Like, here I am type.
Yeah.
What? Because after that, you said that was the beginning of a 22-year era of you becoming
Becoming.
You
Just
know,
becoming. Just
becoming.
It. That's a full sentence. A 22 era of me becoming.
And so there was something he either said, did, or reassured that let you know it was a safe space to bloom.
He fully accepted me.
Like, what did that look like?
It looked like he saw me at my worst when I was yelling, when I was not being kind to him or not being kind to myself, when I was afraid, when I was procrastinating on things I knew I could do, but for whatever reason I just didn't find the motivation to, which really comes back to perfectionism. Everything comes back to perfectionism. But and he still loved me, and he encouraged me, and he held me, and he supported me, and he believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. Fully believed in me. And so honestly, it was that unconditional love that he showed me that I don't think I'd really seen it up close and personal. At least I hadn't experienced it in the way that he gave it. I remember my mom one day, Maurice had come home with me, and she said, when I look at that boy, look at you. He loves you deeply. Just by looking at him. And he did. And he has. That doesn't mean that these 22 years have been easy, because they haven't been easy. We've grown up together. Like, so when you talk about me transitioning from this person who is incredibly self-conscious, very capable, but self-conscious.
Erika, let me explain something to you. All I've met is capability from you. Like, again, from beginning of meeting you and hearing and seeing and experiencing you, I've only seen capability extraordinary, not even basic, so valedictorian doesn't shock me. I'm not surprised. I just didn't know. But I'm not surprised. Extraordinary capability is not a shock, just so we're clear. And I think you're learning that the whole world already knew that about you.
I actually am. I'm embracing what they've already said.
They're
to
like,
me.
yeah, Erika, you didn't know that we're like.
I'm learning to value the things that people value about me.
Yeah.
I haven't always valued what people value about me. I couldn't see what they valued about me.
Is it because at a certain point, and I think about growing up, and when you grow up and your parent, whatever your construct is, your family construct is, you have goals in front of you. Either never going to be what they were, or you're going to be better than they were, either running from or running toward. But there is there is a large part of childhood that is performance driven, that says, this is what they want. This is what they need from me.
It absolutely is.
And you have to undo that a bit when you, I don't know if it's university, I don't know what stage, but I think every single one of us in our adulthood, great girlfriends, all of you listening have probably come to that point where you have to undo the performance. If you haven't, maybe today is that day where you undo the need to perform and to show up for others or what their expectations are. And you start to walk into your own like extraordinary capability.
Yeah. You start to believe in your own genius, and it may not be the genius that they
right.
expect you to have either.
Right.
Because one of the things I did was change my major when I got to Spelman, because they all told me that I needed to be, a math major because I was really good at math. So they said you need to be a math major, and then you go on to be an engineer, and blah 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 blah. I come from a family where I'm a first generation college goer too. So you have all those layers of expectation, because you do seem to stand out from other people. So now you have all this expectation, and you have the weight of an entire family like on you, not because they put that weight on you, but because you put it on yourself. Right? I'm going to be the one who is able to do this. I'm going to be the one who is able to do that. And I do have to say this too. I had there's trauma in my childhood as well. So when you also layer trauma on top of there, you're really running from something, and you're really performing because you have that many more hurdles to jump over, because your mind really is like playing all these tricks on you and speaking to you in ways that are not affirming, in ways that are actually quite detrimental to your identity. And so until you recognize that your identity has been shaped by these experiences that were experiences that never should have been yours, then that's when you can really begin to do the work of being free. But until you're ready to deal with how your identity was shaped and what part of it was not yours to take on, but you did anyway, not your fault, but you did. You didn't have a choice.
You're a child.
You didn't have a choice, but to take on that identity, right?
That's right.
And so once you identify that, then you can start making different choices. And for me, again, that is really rooted in my faith and the healing and the freedom that God wants me to live in,
right?
And not the bondage that I put myself in.
Yeah.
So, it's like if you were to give me a piece of candy right now, and I took that piece of candy, and then I went and I ate all of the candy in the store, all of it. Yeah. And then 2 years from now, I'm 400 pounds overweight, right? And then I say, Sybil, it's you did this to me. Right. I'm like, well, in fact, Sybil may have triggered something. Sybil may have given you something that you didn't need. Right. But you carried it, and then you ran with it. Yeah. So you have to acknowledge also your part in creating your own cell. I created some jails of my own. And I had to ask God to help me release myself from the cells that I created for myself. And I can't say that every day is like a walk in freedom now, but it certainly is easier for me to identify and acknowledge when I have limited myself, when I have pulled myself back, when I have put myself in another jail cell, to know that I can be free from that.
It's like there are certain tools that we have that equip us for certain things. And when you talk about the stacking of trauma, the stacking of, emotional distress, the stacking of, even code switching as a child, all of these things, those tools, without the emotional intelligence to manage them properly, without, the governance of like the Holy Spirit of God really giving you direction, without an opposing blueprint in front of you,
you go under.
You go under. So a lot of times we'll look at people and go, why, how, why? You can't ask questions. Look at the tools. Look at the conditions, and look at the lack of a blueprint. Look at the lack of emotional intelligence. Look at the lack of God. You see the absence of God, a blueprint, emotional intelligence will leave you void of opportunity. But in your case, as I'm listening through all these marking moments for you, and I hear how you became the valedictorian, and I hear how you got to Spelman, and Spelman opened up new blueprints. Even though
whole world of blueprints.
You didn't see them as blueprints at first.
No,
You're like,
I didn't.
These chicks out here fussing in Lexuses and Benzes and the college. Like, what?
It was incredibly
but they're blueprints.
Intimidating initially.
It is, right. And it should be. Honestly, it should be.
Yeah.
You've never seen it before.
Never seen it before. You're like,
it's going to intimidate you. And it's going to challenge your entire scope of the world, right? It has to.
We talked about this earlier, that I don't know if we talked about it at breakfast the other day. I don't know. At some point we talked about it. That the way you can only view the world through the lens in which you have lived.
That's right.
In the world.
That's right.
And so when you come across something that challenges what you know about the world, then you ought to stop and be curious.
That's right.
But not all of us got permission to be curious.
No.
And so when you haven't been given permission to be curious, then you become intimidated.
Absolutely.
And so at some point, someone has to give you that permission, or you have to give yourself permission
That's
to be
right.
curious instead of being intimidated.
I'm holding the Great Girlfriends affirmation cards,
Okay.
and I'm also attached to it as a journal. So every day I take an affirmation card, I reflect on it for a few minutes, and I just journal about it. I might draw a picture. I might write something new to myself. I might write something new to my great-grandchildren. I figure out a way to incorporate it into my being.
Okay.
So I'm giving these to you. This is your deck.
Oh,
but they're nice and
yay.
sticky because I got my hands on them. But I want you to pull one.
Okay.
And then just pick any one of them and read out loud what it says to you. What does it say?
I accept myself just the way I am. This is what we've been talking about. This is what we've been talking about.
The cards don't lie.
The cards don't lie.
That's
I accept
so
myself
good.
just the way I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Listen, they were custom built for women like us.
All right, great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends, follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends, and on Twitter at @the_greatGFS. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.
Yay Networks.